Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen wife tried to force my mom to eat her cooking. After that, am I the jerk for expecting my son to share his room? And after that, don't want to pay me for my work? Alright, I'll undo it. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to force anyone to eat their cooking. Fine with me, you don't need to eat my food. You could stand to lose a few pounds, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My Karen wife tried to force my mom to eat her cooking. My mom is not a picky eater. She will eat almost anything unless it has ketchup on or in it. Also, growing up, I was never made to eat anything. It was my body, my choice, and she would make me a second meal. I'm not sure my wife knows about the ketchup thing, as she has only cooked for my mom a few times and it just didn't come up. The two of them cannot stand each other, so I have greatly cut back on how often I see my mom. But recently, she was invited over to meet our daughter, and my wife asked if she wanted to stay for dinner as we were catching up and I don't see her often. My mom agreed, but when she realized we were having meatloaf with ketchup topping, she only took mashed potatoes and zucchini. My wife questioned her, and my mom said she doesn't eat meatloaf due to the ketchup. My wife said, as a guest, you just eat it. My mom said she was sorry if someone raised my wife to believe that. My mom tried to sit down and eat her vegetables, but my wife blew up and demanded she eat the meatloaf. My mom said if she put any on her plate, she would throw it. I told them both firmly to stop, and my wife demanded that I defend her. I told her to just leave my mom alone and let her eat what she wants to. My wife began to yell at me that I need to defend our home and family. My mom then said she was done and walked out. I asked her to stay, but she just walked out, and my wife did not speak to me for the rest of the night. The way I see it, everyone should be able to turn down food for any reason, and everyone is entitled to some foods they absolutely will not eat. Not the jerk. And that's a big red flag on your wife's part. She's not respecting your mom's personal boundaries, choices, and autonomy. As a guest, you just have to eat it? I wouldn't be a guest for another second. Your wife is unhinged, not the jerk. I'm sorry she's treating your mother this way. She's going to do the same thing to your kids too. You know that, right? You better get this figured out now. Not the jerk. As a guest, you just eat it does not sit right with me. And the guest is not obligated to eat everything. What if they're allergic to something? Your wife would be responsible for it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP's wife or his mom? Please let us know. OP's wife needs to take a chill pill. Growing up, the only thing that I would eat was tendies. And if my parents threw a fit about that, I crayoned all over the wall. Am I the jerk for That was funny. Crayoned all over the wall. Am I the jerk for expecting my son to share his room? Background. My 40 female, husband 40 male, and I bought a 3-bedroom house a few years ago, shortly before lockdown. We, of course, took the master bedroom, and the other 2 bedrooms went to our kids, who were then 12 and 10. We put a very nice double bed in the larger room and a single bed in the smaller room, and told them both that they could choose their rooms, but whoever ended up in the larger room may be asked to share or relocate for visiting family members, while whoever ended up in the smaller room would have it to themselves always. We almost never have family over. Hubby and I are both only kids, and our parents are in other provinces. So we were surprised when our older daughter chose the smaller room and our younger son chose the larger room. But okay, they worked it out between themselves. Both seemed happy with the choice, so okay. And it has remained that way for a couple of years. Now, we have a 4-day weekend coming up. My kids are now 15 and 12, and my mother decided to come down to visit. Of course, we told her okay, my husband and I, as we hadn't seen each other in a while, and I told our son, with the larger room and bed, that Grandma would be here for a few days and would be using his bed. Well, my son threw a fit. He didn't want to share a room with Grandma, not even on an air mattress, not even for 3 nights. She smells funny. So we reminded him of the original deal and offered to put the air mattress in the living room, but that wasn't enough. He'd have no privacy there. His sister offered to let him put the air mattress in her room, which she wasn't required to do, and that wasn't okay either. My husband and I offered to let him put the air mattress in our room, and he said no to that, because sharing a room with your parents, ugh. God bless the privilege, but whatever. Finally, I put my foot down and said, the condition of you having the bigger room was that you would give it up for visiting family members. So one way or another, you're sleeping on an air mattress for 3 nights. You can choose if the air mattress goes in your room or our room or the living room, or literally any room in this house, but you are sleeping on an air mattress while Grandma is here. Shortly after that confrontation, my husband came to me and suggested that we encourage my mom to stay in a hotel. I asked him who was going to pay for that hotel since she can't afford it, we can't afford to put her up, and he went silent. Now he's calling me the jerk for forcing our son to give up his room for all of 3 nights and suggesting that I tell my mom not to come at all since apparently none of us can afford it. Edit. I sincerely appreciate everyone's comments and judgments, but I have officially reached the point where every time I look at my notifications, it adds 2 every second without me even having to hit refresh. Clearly, I should have posted this on my main account since apparently Reddit karma is important in some way. To follow the common Am I the Jerk trend and respond to some common themes. 1. Why don't I offer my own and my husband's bed to my mom? My husband has back problems, so also cannot viably sleep on an air mattress. I will not be going into detail on this. I also assume that it will be incredibly obvious to everyone why it is not viable for my husband and my mother to sleep in one together, while I sleep on an air mattress. Not to mention that she would never allow me to give up my bed for her as a visitor. 2. Why doesn't my mom sleep on the couch or air mattress? She's 83 years old. Need I say more? 3. Anything involving my son and daughter switching rooms. My daughter is willing to help in the short term, but she seems a bit smug right now about the overall room choice, so she has no desire to switch rooms. And I will not force her, because what kind of parent would I be if I hold my son to the letter of his deal, but go back on my word to my daughter? You may decide I'm the jerk, and I'll accept that, but I'm not a hypocrite. 4. I'm fully aware of the privacy that my son needs. We've had that conversation, and at the prompting of a couple of commenters. I have also recently asked my husband if there was a private conversation between him and my son that would in some way change the situation. He said no. Since I do not currently have any reason to believe my husband would lie to me outright, I'm considering that conversation closed. 5. Rest in peace, my DMs, apparently. I didn't know that happened to 40-something married moms, but please know that I'm not interested. Not the jerk. Your son sounds a bit entitled if he can't survive 3 nights on an air mattress while his grandmother is there. Expecting him to share a bed or a room with her would be excessive, but there are presumably other spaces in a 3-bedroom house where he could crash. Edit. To all the people saying you're the jerk because a 12-year-old needs privacy, safe space, etc., I can't help but think how entitled a society we've become. In the past decades, 2 to 3 kids would share a room through their entire child and teenage years. And even today, there are tons of kids living in miserable conditions in slums, refugee camps, and other similar situations. And OP is being called a jerk for telling her son that he has to vacate his room for 3 nights while his 60 or 70-something-year-old grandma visits so that she doesn't have to sleep on an air mattress or stay in a hotel? Just wow. I second this. People are also forgetting that this was a pre-made arrangement. If the son didn't want to share, he could have picked the smaller room. But no, he wanted the bigger one, so he needs to abide by the condition put in place. Like, it's 3 days. He needs to get over himself acting as if it's for 3 months. Not the jerk. This sub is obviously full of kids who think 3 days on an air mattress, which he agreed to, is akin to some form of mistreatment that will leave him scarred well into his adult life. I think he can give his grandmother his bed and stop being a brat, which nothing against him, but is fairly typical kid behavior. I occasionally had to do the same for my grandparents. In hindsight, it was obviously the right call. You're not putting your elderly parents on a darn air mattress. That's insanity. Not the jerk. You've made the conditions clear, and now he isn't happy that they're happening to him. For context, I'm the oldest of 3 and had a similar arrangement. I chose the biggest and best room after my parents, which also had a bathroom next door that essentially became my private bathroom. The arrangement was that I was always the one who had to give up the room to guests, also because I got a double bed. While I didn't love giving up my room, I understood that was the price of having such a good room to begin with. Also, I usually would give up my room for 1 or 2 weeks at a time. A 4-day weekend is nothing. Your son got the room he wanted and is now looking to renege on the deal. You've given him various options, but it's clear he simply does not intend to keep his word. Your husband thinks the person to compromise to his tantrums is your guest, but there is another option. He loses the room entirely and it goes to your daughter going forward. You're the jerk. I'm a certified youth counselor. I work with kids and parents on a day-to-day basis. If there's one thing that kids absolutely need, it's a safe space where they can have privacy. By invading your son's safe space and forcing him to share a room with his grandma, someone he doesn't even like, you're doing him a huge disservice that I guarantee you will cause lifelong issues. I tell parents, as a general rule of thumb, if you don't have a spare bedroom, then don't allow family to stay at your house for anything longer than a day visit. What you're doing is showing your son that your feelings and his grandmother's feelings are more important than his, which will cause him to resent you both. There's been so much research that has gone into what makes kids go no contact with their parents once they leave home, and this is exactly what you're setting yourself up for. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for not putting your son first. If you refuse to trust the clinical studies that have been done, how about trusting the adult child of a family where this exact same thing happened to me? My grandpa Ed would stay over all the time, and I was forced to share my room with him. I hated the way he always smelled like cheese. And the sound of when he spoke. He sounded so old. I cringe now just thinking about it. He never stopped talking and always had boring black and white shows on my TV. I got so fed up with him that one night I made sure that this would never be a problem again. Nobody ever found out what I did, and I never regretted it. My dad fell into a deep depression and started drinking because his father was pretty much his best friend. But that's what happens when you cross the wrong person. Don't be surprised if you end up in the exact same situation. I wouldn't blame your son one bit. Dude, did this guy do what I think he did? Yowza canalza. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their son? Please let us know. I think that last commenter was the jerk. They should be locked up. Don't want to pay me for my work? All right, I'll undo it. I'm naming the company name because I've had many issues with them, and everyone should be warned. So, have to say this first. Beware of working for the delivery service Shipped. Today, I picked up an order for delivery. It had gone promo, money added on Shipped. It was for delivery in a town that is 15 minutes from the store of purchase. Alright, not too bad for $16, especially since I live within 10 minutes of the town I was delivering to. I take it. I go to the store, receive the groceries, and I'm on my merry way. I send a text to the customer that I'm on my way and will reach them before this time. No response, so I give a quick call. It does a weird thing and ends. Doesn't even go to voicemail. Huh, whatever. I sent them a text. Get to the house, knock, no answer. Leave the bag outside the door and I walk away. Make it to my car, start the car. The woman pokes her head out on the porch door as I'm about to leave. You were very lovely, woman on the porch. Thank you for your kindness. Waves me down, looking highly confused. So I, unfortunately, stop the car and get out. The woman asks what this is. Why, your order, ma'am, I say, looking all happy. I didn't order anything, she says. Oh no. Did anyone else in the house? Nope. Oh no. So there's a wrong address on the delivery. I've never dealt with this before, and I have to leave to catch a movie with friends in 30 minutes. Cue me going door to door at each house on that small street while reaching out to Shipped support, and while trying to call the customer again. Does the same weird thing with the phone. I give up on that. I proceed to knock on doors. Nope. Nobody's. Alright. Shipped suggestion? Just drive back and return it. No, Shipped. I'm a delivery contractor. I'm not a volunteer, nor am I a charity. I'm hired by you to fulfill deliveries. As far as I'm concerned, I've delivered to the address on file. I'm not reaching into my bank account to correct someone else's mistake. For the total extra 30-minute round trip, I'll need $10 on top of the initial pay. Thanks, gas, for being so expensive. No, they say. We'll give you $8.10. No, I say. I have plans now in 10 minutes that I will have to miss. $8.10 will not cover the gas and wear and tear for the extra 30 minutes. I will need no less than $10, or I will leave them on the curb of the noted delivery address. We'll give you $5 and can't do any more than that, they say. Wait, I say. $5 on top of the additional $8.10 to make it $13.10 on top of what I'm being paid, or just $5? I want everything in writing specifically because I knew Shipped was going to do exactly what they did next. Oh yes, $13.10, but we can't do any more, they say. Fine, I'm returning it to the store now, I say. Go to the store, do the whole return process, get in contact with Shipped as they directed me to with the requested information. Get a message on my phone from Shipped to the effect of, your order has been canceled and $20.80 issued to your account. What? I contact Shipped, Say I'm confused. Say it looks as though they were only giving me $5 on top of the original order payment when they said I would be compensated with $13.10. I was told, "Oh, we won't give you any more than $5. But you already said. Is there someone else I can speak to?" "Nope, $5. Take it or leave it." "All right, fine. Don't want to pay me the agreed upon wage? That's a breach of contract, meaning you never actually paid me for this return." So what did I do? I marched right back into the store. Asked the worker who had taken the return that she had just gotten done with. I snatched the bag up, strode up to the manager, informed them of what happened, and told them since I wasn't being paid to return the groceries, I would be taking them back to the last place I was contracted and paid to deliver them. I told him if he wanted to be recompensated for the groceries, he could charge shipped, as they were not willing to pay to have them returned. Message shipped from my car, informing them of this, and gave them 30 minutes. Yep, my plans were now ruined. It's now 2 hours later. To rescind their rescission and pay me what they actually agreed to and owed me. Had to reach out 2 separate times because the first girl, despite my being very polite, would not go to anyone else, such as management, to ask for an exception to this policy, considering they had literally told me they would pay me more. Actually had the gall to ask if I had taken items I had returned, and all I had to say in response was, "Did you pay me to return them?" Second girl was much more helpful. Reached out to her team to see if anything could be done. Shipped still wouldn't be swayed, but I thanked her profusely for at least trying. So in the end, they said they wouldn't do any more than $5. I told them, "All right, I reject that offer. Just pay me the original delivery because $5.80 is where they'll be. You can pay another shipped shopper $15 to come get them." Drove back. It was on my way home. Dropped them off and left. I'm not a charity, I don't work for free, and I certainly don't pay to work. I'm going to be messaging ShopRite Corporate directly along with New Jersey Labor Board because this is not the first issue with wages I've had with Shipped. And honestly, ShopRite should seek compensation from them. Have fun paying for the more than $13.10 of groceries that are now rotting on the curb, Shipped. Side note, to anyone who may say you're being entitled, no, I'm not. It's not entitled to expect an agreed upon wage. It's extortion to expect me to work for less than agreed. Imagine you accepted an order from a delivery service, fulfilled that obligation, and suddenly they decided to pay you less than half for that completed order. Or you're working at a job and they suddenly cut your pay without any notice or agreement upon your part. As I explained to them, I never would have returned the groceries for $5 because it wasn't my mistake. Would have returned them no problem if it had been, and I would be paying to return them. Plus the missed plans, plus the lost time. So no, I am in no way in the wrong, and I don't care what anyone who thinks otherwise has to say. Am I the jerk for telling my son I can't trust him? I have 3 kids, a 15-year-old son and 8-year-old twin daughters. They all get along well, and my son loves his sisters and vice versa. Sometimes my husband and I have to go to certain events, and I ask my son if he can watch his sisters for the night. He usually says yes, unless he has plans. I just ask my mom then. So on Friday night, we had an event to go to, and I again asked my son if he'd be willing to babysit. He said sure, and that was it. We came back at around midnight, and I went to check on the kids, and my son was fast asleep, while one of the twins was throwing up, and the other one was crying. I was surprised, but I also didn't really blame my son in any way. They weren't really making any noise, and were clearly asleep before all heck broke loose. Well, I managed to calm them down, and they ended up telling me how their big brother was really mean and grumpy all day, and when they asked for food, he gave them a jar of peanut butter. The twins cannot have peanut butter. They aren't allergic, but it makes them sick. The girls know as well, but they were hungry and said that they had to eat it. My son knows this, and the peanut butter is kept out of the twins' sight and reach, and is literally only in the house for him. I woke him up the next morning and asked him if all of this was true. He just made a noise and was all like, "Those little snitches. Yeah, so they had a little peanut butter. What's the big deal?" I told him that he knows they can't have it, and not only that, but I also don't like how they described his attitude, especially when he told them that they had to eat it. He just told me to stop overthinking. He forgot peanut butter makes them that sick. He only said they had to eat it because he didn't want them going hungry. He didn't feel like ordering, cooking, or warming up leftovers either, and also the twins were being annoying. I told him that these excuses are not good enough, and that what he did was honestly kind of cruel. I told him that I don't know if I can trust him anymore like this. He just rolled his eyes and told me that I'm being really dramatic, and that the twins will be fine. I don't need to act like this. He's really upset with me, and every time me or his dad say anything, he'll just reply with, "Oh, I thought I was cruel. I thought you couldn't trust me." He's not budging, and he's not normally like this, so I'm wondering, am I the jerk? My sister told me to post on here since I'm so conflicted. Didn't think it would hurt. Not the jerk. Please take all the peanut butter out of the house. They are allergic. Just because it doesn't show in the well-known ways doesn't mean that they aren't. That's the thing with allergies. Sometimes the symptoms are mild, sometimes they're serious. You're very, very lucky that their reaction wasn't much worse, especially with that much peanut butter. It's lucky you came home to throwing up and crying, and not just crying or silence. Am I the jerk for missing my father-in-law's funeral after my mother-in-law booked my husband first class, but me economy? Me, 31 female, and my mother-in-law don't have a close relationship. She's civil towards me, but can be a bit passive-aggressive at times, and we tend to disagree oftentimes. We live in a different state. Father-in-law passed suddenly, and mother-in-law told me and my husband to come attend the funeral. She booked our tickets to fly to her state, but the issue started when my husband told me that we couldn't sit together on the plane because his mom had booked him a first-class ticket while I got economy. I was flabbergasted by this. I tried asking him why, but he urged me to suck it up and we'll talk about it later. In that particular moment, I felt so much humiliation and contempt. I felt like she was treating me as less than, even in her hard times. I decided to not go and just go back home. My husband was shocked by my decision to go home and tried to convince me to just go, but I declined. He went alone and I ended up missing the funeral. He was livid, just calling me and texting me nasty things, calling me petty and spoiled. He said that I should be grateful his mom paid for my ticket to begin with, then said that she doesn't owe me a darn thing. I argued about how she could have just booked us both in economy if money was an issue, but he called me pathetic for thinking about it when his dad had just passed. He said it was cruel what I did, and that his mom and family will never forget that I missed the funeral over ridiculous reasons. Am I the jerk for going home over this? ETA. One of the reasons I didn't settle for the economy ticket was because I wanted to sit next to my husband and support him. He sobbed the whole ride to the airport, and I didn't want to leave his side. I was shocked when he told me we couldn't sit together, and how he said it like he had no issue with it. Everyone sucks here. The seat issue was more important than supporting your husband after the passing of his father? This is exactly the point. Obviously, mother-in-law is a jerk, and her actions were uncalled for and petty. But you made your husband go to his father's funeral without the support of his spouse, and you did this over a first-class seat. You played right into your mother-in-law's hands and may have caused irreparable damage to your marriage. You're the jerk. Yes, it was very crappy for your mother-in-law to book you in economy class while your husband was in first class. But you let a petty quarrel with your mother-in-law prevent you from supporting your husband when he needed you the most. Your husband has every right to be upset. You basically told him that your grudge against your mother-in-law is more important than supporting him. Edit. No, I won't say everyone sucks here. The husband doesn't suck, and the mother-in-law just lost her lifelong partner, has to pay for plane tickets for 2 people, and she wanted to pay a little treat to her son. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt that she did this to spoil her son, not to upset you. Everyone sucks here. Your mother-in-law won. It was most likely her intention to cause a fight, and she won because you didn't go. Now she gets to bash you to everyone for not attending. You didn't support your hubs when he needed it. So now all the nasty things she whispers in his ear while he's there, he's going to agree with regarding you. You were put into a losing situation either way. The whole thing sucks. Sorry this happened to you. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for not going or not? Please let us know. I'm sure a husband could have offered to switch with whoever was sitting next to her, and they probably would have been glad to take his first-class seat. When you have problems, there are always solutions. You just need to look for them. The only time I left a 0 tip. It was today. I'm a server at a busy downtown restaurant, and I usually have time to make some coffee at home before work. Yeah, I could drink the coffee at work, but I like my Cafe Bustelo rather than what we have at the restaurant. Just a personal preference. It's what got me through undergrad alive, so they forever have my allegiance. Today, making a fresh pot at home just wasn't going to happen because I slightly mismanaged my time. Had to do a company meeting thing with some higher-ups and also squeeze in a vet visit for my new kitten before work. Time got a little tight, so I ended up heading into my shift entirely uncaffeinated. No worries, while I don't particularly love energy drinks, I figured I'd just pop across the street and grab one at the corner store. I do so, and when I check out, it's with one of those mini iPads with a card reader. I get my energy drink and a pack of smokes for after work, and when I put my card into the reader, it automatically prompts me to leave a 15, 20, or 25% tip. I'm almost 36 years old, and my income has been primarily dependent upon tips for basically the entirety of my adult life. I understand this, and I strive to always pay it forward. I start at 40% in a full service setting and only go down if you mess up colossally. Even then, it basically takes outright mistreatment for me to go south of 25%. I tip 20% on takeout. I tip 25% on delivery. Heck, I almost always throw the person working the window at Taco Bell or Cookout a 5 just for being open when I want to eat some garbage after work. This was the first and only time in my entire life where my whole being went, "Are you kidding me?" when being asked for a tip. Now, thankfully, the guy working the register sighed and reached over to me to hit the custom tip button and then hit 0. He looked at me and sighed. "Sorry about that, man. We just got this new point of sale like 2 days ago, and the owners haven't figured out how to disable that step yet." I just gave him a shrug and a, "Nah, it's all good, man." But darn if I didn't get hot for a split second, thinking that the corner store would have the audacity to ask for a tip for ringing up an energy drink and a pack of smokes. So yeah, technically, that's the only time I've ever been given the option to leave a tip and was totally fine with it being 0. Tipping culture is quickly becoming a scam. I'm asked to tip everywhere now. It's just one more way corporations are hiking up their consumers' costs to supplement the crappy wages they pay employees. Yup, it really is everywhere. I'm not tipping someone to make me a coffee in a drive-thru, and I'm certainly not tipping at the gas station when I have to pump my own gas. I tip for personal service stuff and delivery, and that's it. I'm gonna have to draw the line at tipping at gas stations too. I really snubbed a bartender with a 20% tip last night. I always tip big. I gave her the benefit of the doubt the time before. Bad day, tired maybe. But she's incredibly rude and ignores me. She acts like I'm really disturbing her if I ask for a drink. I couldn't bring myself to give less than 20%, but I really wanted to. "So the bartender was really rude to you the whole night. This wasn't the first time it's happened, and you still gave her a 20% tip? Dude, I am so done with you Reddit people." My Karen sister-in-law thinks she can kick me out of my own beach house. 12 years ago, our grandparents passed, leaving their beach house to me, 37 female, and my brother, 35 male. The place is within drivable distance of my town. My work is such that I can do it remotely a lot of the time. I now have 2 small kids. Because of these factors, through the years, I've been in the beach house much more, basically summering it in, while my brother, who lives much more distant, only crashes occasionally or requests it for a couple of weeks while I often used it through the winter. My brother is now married to my sister-in-law, 25 female. My sister-in-law has very specific ideas of what their new married life will be like. Pinterest board, custom hashtag for social media, affirmations posted around the house. The beach house features prominently in it. Despite their having to drive 4 hours to get to it, she insists we should divide time equally and leave it free if they want it, and that she may well redecorate to make it more hers. I have redecorated that house to suit me. I asked my brother for no money except for structural issues. There are 3 bedrooms, so there are no reasons we couldn't be there together. My brother literally told me he wasn't there enough to care about swapping use of the main bedroom, which is the only seafront one, and in which my husband has built our bed. She wants that particularly, claiming it would be their perfect love nest. I think it's my bedroom, and while she's welcome to my brother's, she can't have mine as well. We had established how to work it. I've built my patterns around it, and I don't want to change it now. She says she can't be there while we're there because it would ruin the feeling of retreat. My brother is happy with whatever she's happy with, but I know very well determined opposition on my part will make him back down. The last discussion we had about it, when I pointedly asked, would she like to live, laugh, love on the kitchen table? He winced and left the room. So if I want to hold on to the house on my terms, I can. But does it make me the jerk? To be clear, I don't object to their being here more. I don't object to their having more alone time. I don't object to their redecorating their room or bathroom, however. I don't object to their bringing some things in. But I object to having to swap my room after 12 years having her overhaul spaces I redecorated and spent money on, and agreeing to a rigid 50-50 schedule when I already know my brother's CBA with regular long drives. ETA. You guys, I'm totally fine with being called the jerk, but I find it hilarious that people here think my brother is an unfortunate and bullied soul. He left our hometown to strike out on his chosen career. He did wonderfully. He bought a house before me and my husband did. He adores traveling abroad, and until he met sister-in-law, he wasn't keen on romantic commitment. I'd spent weekends pottering about the house, and he'd fly back to Bangkok to hike, and that was wonderful for both of us. The issue here is that he is conflict avoidant and unwilling to discuss this with me and my sister-in-law. I certainly flipped out, and I'm happy admitting it and bringing discussion back. But believe you me, he wasn't in the beach house because he was having the time of his life elsewhere. ETA 2. Right, people, I think I heard enough. I've spoken to a mortgage advisor as to how much I should offer and will discuss it with my husband reusing our savings as deposit. I will then offer to my brother when we meet up to discuss, details being firmed up. If I manage, I'll update. One thing I want to say is, it's pretty laughable to me that people so quickly assume I don't know my brother or am strong-arming him or bullying him or whatever else. I got use of the house, and he got someone else to maintain his private en-suite for the 1 to 2 weeks a year he wanted it. Sea view room might be best for lots, but he rather wanted to annex a bathroom, and that's what he did. They also aren't Airbnb-ing this, as some of you suggested. This isn't a random vacation share, it's a well-loved family home that, with my brother's full knowledge, consent, and enjoyment of the fact that everything was clean and lovely and updated every time he came here, which was rarely, I used more and more over the years. I trust my brother to acknowledge that. As for people change when they get married, if this was my brother asking me these things, it would be different. What I got was my sister-in-law swanning in with demands and him murmuring non-committally in the background. You are all very right. I should have brought it to him first though, and that's on me. But I hardly denied his wishes, because truth is, his wishes haven't changed. They've been together 2 years, and his pattern of using the house hasn't changed. She just thinks it will, because now she has redone their main home, she wants another project/Instagram backdrop. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.